Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, how are you? I'm going to talk about lawsuit, Google News.
Lawsuit, Google News, Google Search. Google hit with two class action lawsuits by Australian publishers. The 30th of January 2025, Josh Taylor. Thursday, the 30th of January 2025, 23.56 est. Google is facing two class action lawsuits over its dominance in the ad tech sector amid claims it is hurting. Google faces £5 billion lawsuit in UK over alleged market abuse. The 16th of April 2025, Investing.com, Alphabet Inc.'s NASDAQ, Google is facing a class action lawsuit in the UK, where it's being sued for potential damages XE. Google has a legal advertising monopoly, Judge rules, BBC. The 17th of April 2025, a US judge has ruled tech giant Google has a monopoly in online advertising technology. The US Google agrees to pay Texas $1.375 billion over data privacy claims, Texas The Guardian. Google has agreed to pay $1.375 billion in a settlement in principle reached with the state of Texas over allegations the company violated users' data privacy. The Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, said on Friday. The agreement settles two lawsuits that covered three products for allegedly violating Texas consumer protection laws. In Texas, big tech is not above the law. For years, Google secretly tracked people's movements, private searches, and even their voice prints and facial geometry through their products and services. I fought back and won, said Paxton in a statement. Details of the settlement were not disclosed. The Texas Attorney General did not say how the money would be used. Google said the agreement settles claims encompassing incognito mode, location history, and biometrics-related allegations. The company did not admit any wrongdoing. This settles a raft of old claims, many of which have already been resolved elsewhere. Concerning product policies, we have long since changed, said a statement from Jose Castaneda, a Google spokesperson. We are pleased to put them behind us, and we will continue to build robust privacy controls into our services. Paxton sued Google twice in 2022, alleging that it had collected from Texas residents records of their face geometry and voice prints without obtaining proper consent. He also alleged the company tracked users' location even when they thought they had disabled the feature and misled users about incognito mode, which is meant to provide private browsing. The settlement does not require product changes, according to a Google spokesperson. Meta Platforms, the owner of Facebook and Instagram, agreed last year to pay $1.4 billion to settle with Paxton over allegations it unlawfully collected and used facial recognition data. Google agrees to pay Texas $1.375 billion over data privacy claims, Texas The Guardian. Google has agreed to pay $1.375 billion in a settlement in principle reached with the state of Texas over allegations the company violated users' data privacy. The Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, said on Friday. The agreement settles two lawsuits that covered three products for allegedly violating Texas consumer protection laws. In Texas, big tech is not above the law. For years, Google secretly tracked people's movements, private searches, and even their voice prints and facial geometry through their products and services. I fought back and won, said Paxton in a statement. Details of the settlement were not disclosed. The Texas Attorney General did not say how the money would be used. Google said the agreement settles claims encompassing incognito mode, location history, and biometrics-related allegations. The company did not admit any wrongdoing. This settles a raft of old claims, many of which have already been resolved elsewhere. Concerning product policies, we have long since changed, said a statement from Jose Castaneda, a Google spokesperson. We are pleased to put them behind us, and we will continue to build robust privacy controls into our services. Paxton sued Google twice in 2022, alleging that it had collected from Texas residents records of their face geometry and voice prints without obtaining proper consent. He also alleged the company tracked users' location even when they thought they had disabled the feature and misled users about incognito mode, which is meant to provide private browsing. The settlement does not require product changes, according to a Google spokesperson. Meta Platforms, the owner of Facebook and Instagram, agreed last year to pay $1.4 billion to settle with Paxton over allegations it unlawfully collected and used facial recognition data.
So what are we looking for? We're looking for lawsuit. Oh, we can't read that. Can we read that?
Google, AI firm must face lawsuit filed by a mother over suicide of son, US court says Reuters. May 21 Reuters Alphabet's Google, opens new tab. Google an artificial intelligence startup Character, AI must face a lawsuit from a Florida woman who said Character, AI's chatbots caused her 14-year-old son's suicide, a judge ruled on Wednesday. U.S. District Judge Ann Conway said the companies failed to show. Opens new tab. At an early stage of the case that the free speech protections of the U.S. Constitution barred Megan Garcia's lawsuit. Make sense of the latest ESG trends affecting companies and governments with the Reuters Sustainable Switch newsletter. Sign up here. The lawsuit is one of the first in the U.S. against an AI company for allegedly failing to protect children from psychological harms. It alleges that the teenager killed himself after becoming obsessed with an AI-powered chatbot. A Character, AI spokesperson said the company will continue to fight the case and employs safety features on its platform to protect minors, including measures to prevent conversations about self-harm. Google spokesperson Jose Castaneda said the company strongly disagrees with the decision. Castaneda also said that Google and Character, AI are entirely separate and that Google did not create, design, or manage Character, AI's app or any component part of it. Garcia's attorney, Meetali Jain, said the historic decision sets a new precedent for legal accountability across the AI and tech ecosystem. Character, AI was founded by two former Google engineers whom Google later rehired as part of a deal granting it a license to the startup's technology. Garcia argued that Google was a co-creator of the technology. Garcia sued both companies in October after the death of her son, Sewell Setzer, in February 2024. The lawsuit said Character, AI programmed its chatbots to represent themselves as a real person, a licensed psychotherapist, and an adult lover, ultimately resulting in Sewell's desire to no longer live outside of its world. According to the complaint, Setzer took his life moments after telling a Character, AI chatbot imitating Game of Thrones character Daenerys Targaryen that he would come home right now. Character, AI in Google asked the court to dismiss the lawsuit on multiple grounds, including that the chatbot's output was constitutionally protected free speech. Conway said on Wednesday that Character, AI in Google failed to articulate why words strung together by an LLM large language model are speech. The judge also rejected Google's request to find that it could not be liable for aiding Character, AI's alleged misconduct. Reporting by Blake Ridden in Washington, editing by David Barrio and Matthew Lewis. Our standards, the Thomson Reuters Trust Principles. Opens new tab. Blake Ridden reports on intellectual property law, including patents, trademarks, copyrights and trade secrets, for Reuters Legal. He has previously written for Bloomberg Law and Thomson Reuters Practical Law and practiced as an attorney.
Read this AI effect.
AI effect, Wikipedia. The AI effect is the discounting of the behavior of an artificial intelligence program as not real intelligence. 1. The author Pamela McCorduck writes, it's part of theory of the field of artificial intelligence that every time somebody figured out how to make a computer do something, play good checkers, solve simple but relatively informal problems, there was a chorus of critics to say, that's not thinking. 2. Researcher Rodney Brooks complains, every time we figure out a piece of it, it stops being magical. We say,
Stop it.
Today on the podcast, we're talking about the brand new model from OpenAI called Codex, specifically for developers. And I think there is a ton of big implications on billions of dollars worth of acquisitions OpenAI is currently looking at doing, a massive segment that OpenAI is currently getting smoked on for coders. We're going to get into all of that. I think this is a really key moment for OpenAI. If they can land this, they will be the kings of AI. And if not, some of their competitors will live to see another fighting day. So we're going to get into all of that. Before we do, I wanted to mention, if you're interested in trying all of the new AI models that keep coming out in rapid succession, test them next to each other, you need to try the AI Box Playground. My very own startup is finally launched. We have our very first product, the AI Box Playground. It is in beta and essentially allows you to try all of the different top AI models for $20 a month. So you don't need subscriptions to Claude and Gemini and OpenAI and Grok and everything else. You get all access to everything, including image and audio models as well, by the way. And you can chat with all of the models in the same chat. So if you're mid-chat and you're like, hey, I'm not loving what ChatGPT is saying here, you can switch to Claude, you can switch to Gemini, you can switch to Grok and get better or different responses. And in addition, you can actually ask the chat to rerun the chat with a different model. So if you didn't like a response that it gave you, you can hit the rerun button. You can go over and select a different model and then actually have it regenerate the response with a new model. And you can compare those models side by side with a little compare button. So this is one of the best ways, I think, to test all of the models side by side and use them all, access them all in one place without having to have 100 subscriptions and even just like 100 different tabs open, right? Like instead of 7 tabs using different tools, you can just have them all in one place and get access to everything in a really easy way. So it's aibox.ai. There is a link in the description if you're interested in trying it out. But otherwise, let's get into the rest of the episode here. So we have a tweet from Sam Altman that, of course, is going viral. And he says, today we're introducing Codex. It's a software engineering agent that runs in the cloud and does tasks for you, like writing a new feature or fixing a bug. You can run many tasks in parallel. Of course, we have to label this an agent because that's the way anything launches today with AI. But essentially, this is a really useful tool, and I think it's directly trying to fight back against Claude Code, which has been picking up a lot of steam. And if I'm being 100% honest, over here at AI Box, we exclusively are using Claude Code. It plugs straight into our code base, front end and back end, ties them all together. It understands everything. And the thing that I've been blown away by with Claude Code in particular that I haven't quite seen from OpenAI, but I hope Codex starts giving this a run for the money, is the design. So if you ask Claude Code to create a new feature or button or tool or fix something, when it redesigns something, it's going to draw off the design of your whole actual app. It knows what everything looks like, and it's going to just kind of copy some of the same design elements, the same colors, styles, and it looks amazing. So that's what I love about it. But OpenAI now needs to compete. So who has access to this? I was disappointed personally, but whatever, to find out that it's going to be for pro, enterprise, and Teams users starting today, and then everyone else is going to hopefully get it soon. It is, a lot of people are very excited about this and have a lot of hype and I guess good press coming out on this. This is definitely a needed tool. OpenAI's got some really cool, they just came out with a new code specific or fine-tuned model for code, and now it's going to be plugged into this new Codex. So this is what they said specifically about it. They said on their blog post over at OpenAI, they said Codex is powered by Codex 1, a version of OpenAI O3 optimized for software engineering. It was trained using reinforcement learning on real-world coding tasks in a variety of environments to generate code that closely mirrors human style and PR preferences, adheres precisely to instructions, and can iteratively run tests until it receives a passing result. And so they just said who they're going to roll it out to, which is interesting. I think this could be a fantastic tool, definitely better than some of the other things that they have out today. Essentially what they said is, how this actually works. They said, today you can access Codex through the sidebar in ChatGPT and assign it new coding tasks by typing a prompt and clicking code. If you want to ask Codex a question about your code base, click Ask. Each task is processed independently in a separate isolated environment preloaded with your code base. Codex can read and edit files as well as run commands, including test harnesses, linters, and type checkers. Task completion typically takes between 1 and 30 minutes. And I know for a lot of people, they're like, maybe even if you're not a developer, you're like, oh my gosh, 30 minutes to complete a task. Yeah, it takes 30 minutes. And with Claude Code, what we're doing right now, because Claude Code's been out for maybe 2 months now at this point that we've been using it, and we've just done insane things. We've really ramped up our development from it. And yeah, sometimes you ask it a question, and you're like, all right, I'm coming back to that in about 15, 20 minutes once it runs through and figures stuff out. But it's still so much faster than using actual people to do these tasks. So 1 to 30 minutes is absolutely no problem. OpenAI also said once Codex completes a task, it commits its change to the environment. Codex provides verifiable evidence of its actions through citations of terminal logs and test outputs, allowing you to trace each step taken during task completion. You can review the request further revisions, open a GitHub pull request, or directly integrate the changes into your local environment. In the product, you can configure the Codex environment to match your real development environment as closely as possible. So this is a fantastic tool. If you are on the $20 version of ChatGPT and you go over there, you're not going to be able to run it at the moment. It's only for if you're paying the $200 for the pro version, and hopefully us poor $20 people will get access to it soon. I recently was just playing around on ChatGPT, testing out the coding capabilities. I know they got their new model, so I should run it with that. But I believe just running on their ChatGPT 4.0, I asked it, "Hey, can I use Codex?" It's like, "Yeah, just ask us to write some code," and it had an example of some request I could ask. So I said, write a Python script that scrapes headlines from a news site, or convert this JavaScript function to TypeScript. I did that, and I just put that in as a prompt, which now I'm realizing is actually 2 different prompts. But it wrote some code it said, here's a simple script using requests and beautiful soup to scrape headlines from the BBC News front page. Gave me some code, and it opens up the code inside of OpenAI's Canvas, which looks great. And it has a button. If you run the code, of course, it crashes, and I'm assuming this is because it's referencing a library, Beautiful Soup, which I'm assuming it doesn't actually have access to. So in any case, it's not perfect today. I think for a lot of people like myself, I'm not a technical co-founder. I'm not a technical developer. And so when I try to go do vibe coding, yes, I'm sure I could figure this out. I basically understand the issue here. I could go watch some YouTube tutorials. I could kind of get into the weeds and try to vibe code some sort of cool app. But at the end of the day, it's a little bit above, I think, a lot of people that are non-developers. Like I don't understand or can't pull this off instantly. I'd have to watch a bunch of YouTube tutorials. So all I'm saying is these coding tools are fantastic. They're amazing for developers. We're still not at a place where OpenAI is making, no code tools. You tell it to do something and it vibe codes it for you. You still kind of have to know what you're doing and watch some videos when you're using OpenAI. Now, there are other tools that are doing much better at this. Lovable, there's a couple other players that are doing more of the no code. You still got to know a little bit of what you're actually doing. But in any case, just wanted to bring that up. Okay. If you go over to Codex to try to get into what they're doing, as far as the AI agent side of things, I'm quite impressed and very interested. So they say Codex can be guided by agents.md files, which is, they said, these can be placed within your repository. These are text files similar to README, when you can inform Codex how to navigate your code base, which commands to run for testing, and how best to adhere to your project standard practices. Like human developers, Codex agents perform best when provided with configured dev environments, reliable testing setups, and clear documentation. Our coding evaluations and internal benchmarks have Codex 1 shows strong performance even without agent files or custom scaffolding. So this is fairly impressive. So as far as the SWE, which is like a developer coding benchmark, as far as it goes, Codex 1 is beating O3 High, which is good because there's of course there's O4 Mini, and O3 is the latest and greatest, the best. I guess it was the best of the O3 models. Now we're on O4. Unless that's that backwards. But in any case, this is their high model, so they're giving it the most compute, the most intelligence, and Codex 1 is beating it. Now, the one thing I will say is it's not like completely smoking it. It's not like Codex 1 is 1,000 times better than O3 High, but it is better. So it is the best. That's important to know. And of course, they've got all these cool things like integrating with agents that are important. They said 23 SWE bench verified samples that were not runnable on our internal infrastructure were excluded. So pretty much they're saying how they actually got these results. Codex 1 was tested at a maximum context length of 192,000 tokens and medium reasoning effort, which is a setting that will be available in product today. For details on the O3 evaluations, they have a whole website where you can go see that. So their goal here is that you're able to build safe and trustworthy agents, pretty much. This is technically a research preview, right? So this isn't, they're not saying this is a full release. They kind of do this for everything nowadays. I think the newest 4.5 model is a research preview. And they're just saying like, yeah, it's a research preview so that if it does anything crazy or goes off the rails, like, no, it's a research preview. Like we weren't fully rolled out yet. Now it's they're not going to put the official stamp of like, this is our official best model that's fully out there until, they see if it has any like crazy bugs or quirks. I do think that's really funny. Because other than calling it a research preview, there's not a ton of differences. Except it's not bad PR if it goes crazy pretty much. They say they're prioritizing security and transparency when designing Codex so users can verify its outputs, a safeguard that grows increasingly more important as AI models handle more complex coding tasks independently. So really, this is important. You need to know what it's actually doing in your code base. You don't want it to mess anything up that's super big. And then, all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, what did it do? They say that their primary goal was when they were training this was to align the outputs really closely with human coding preferences and standards. So it's much better at that. It's really quite impressive. They compared a lot to O3 and it is better than O3. So they also have a whole section about how they're going to prevent abuse of this. Bad actors aren't going to be using it. At the end of the day, I think there's enough open source models with Llama that if bad actors are going to be using, AI and coding tools, it's going to happen. So I'm less concerned about kind of what they're doing there, but maybe that's just me. Secure execution, this I do think is important. They said the Codex agent operates entirely within a secure, isolated container in the cloud. During task execution, internet access is disabled, limiting the agent's interaction solely to the code, explicitly provided via GitHub repositories and pre-installed dependencies configured by the user via a setup script. The agent cannot access external websites, APIs, or other agents or other services. And pretty much the reason why they're doing this, they're not like giving access to the internet. Some people are like, oh, it's not going to be as good at searching for the most up-to-date things, which is true. But the reason they're doing it is because if you put in your code, they don't want some sort of website to be clever and sneaky and essentially fish your whole code base and get the agent to paste in your whole code base and people could steal your code base. That's what they're trying to avoid here. And so, that makes it much more secure, but definitely is limiting. Not that anyone else is doing that, but yeah, that is one thing to do. There's a bunch of really interesting early use cases of people that are trying it. It's funny when they did this whole thing, they list some people that are using it. They're like, Temporal uses Codex to accelerate feature development. They're like, Cisco is exploring how Codex can help their engineering teams. I thought that was funny. It's not like Cisco's using it. It's like they're exploring how they could possibly use this. Like, yes, I'm sure every company in the world, when a big feature comes out, is exploring how it could possibly be beneficial to them. So I'm just gonna ignore their Cisco plug there. Superhuman's using it. Kodiak is using it. A bunch of other players. This is probably a great tool. Lest I bag on it too much. They said last month we launched Codex CLI, a lightweight open source coding agent that runs in your terminal. And so now they're releasing a smaller version of Codex 1, which is a version of O4 Mini designed specifically for using Codex CLI. It's kind of interesting, right? This Codex isn't like a brand new out of thin air model. It's just kind of built on top of, it's like a fine-tuned model built on top of other models they have. So yeah, I do think this is very interesting. As far as their pricing, they say for developers building with Codex Mini latest, the model is available on the Response API and priced at $1.50 per million output tokens and $6 per 1 million output 150 for a million input tokens, $6 for a million output tokens, with a 75% prompt caching discount. That's fantastic. That actually saves you a lot of money doing the prompt caching. So that's great. In any case, this is still in early development. It's a very cool tool. I'm excited to see this in the wild, people actually using it, and to see how it stacks up to Claude Code. Now, the drama behind all of this is that OpenAI just offered, allegedly, $3 billion to buy Windsurf, one of the biggest, probably the second biggest coding tool after Cursor. And so now it seems like they're building a direct competitor to Windsurf. And Windsurf also yesterday just announced that they're building their own actual AI model. Like, they trained their own AI model on code. So now it's like, Windsurf doesn't need OpenAI, and OpenAI doesn't need Windsurf. So will that acquisition go through? It's a big, interesting question to ask, and I'll keep you up to date on all of the latest drama there. If they actually pull off that acquisition, what happens there? In any case, thanks so much for tuning into the podcast. I hope you learned something new about this crazy world of coding. And if you did, make sure to go check out AIbox.ai if you want to try all of the latest models for $20 a month. You don't have to have subscriptions to everything. You get them all in one place, and a ton of great features as well. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will catch you next time.
ABC Listen. Podcasts, radio, news, music, and more.
The digital town square has changed a lot over the years.
My Twitter feed is 1/3 pro-CCP propaganda, 1/3 pro-Nazi propaganda, and 1/3 this kind of what in the hell's going on.
Should we accept this new social media normal, or can we do something to make it better? From If You're Listening, this is Australia versus the Internet. I'm Matt Bevan. Find it on the ABC Listen app.
We were told time and again, cost of living was the biggest issue for voters at the election. So,
look at that. It went to that. Sit down. Rid of that. You will see it. Like that.
It's time for Intelligent Machines. Jeff Jarvis is here. Paris Martineau, our guest this week. Means episode 817.
Craig Newmark of Craig's
Craig, the Craig, the one and only Craig.
No, just his name. They are.
Oh, we managed to get that in after all.
Students are all starstruck.
Are they really?
Oh yeah.
Because he invented something that's still around. It's still popular. They use.
Yeah, no.
Right.
Tell him Craig's got to come because I want to meet Craig.
All right. I will send him an email saying I need some. Jeff, do you want to go too? I'm not going to go.
Yeah. What do you mean you're not going to go? You're not going to go?
No. Lisa told me, she said, don't go. You'll steal his thunder. You don't want to go to opening day. Go a week or two later. You don't want to steal his thunder.
You got to come and then hang out in the back with us.
With the cool kids.
Yeah. Hang out in the back of the bus with us.
Well, I'm not a cool kid, so that just leaves Paris.
You guys can be my entourage.
We can hang out with Diplo and Quavo.
Yeah,
in the
me
back.
and Craig can be the cool kids, and you can be our entourage.
Craig would be happy with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Maybe I'll think about it. It is a Saturday. I'm not doing anything, so.
Memorial Day weekend. It's a really fun time to be in the city because no one's in New York City on Memorial Day weekend.
Maybe that's a bad time to have a grand opening.
No,
would students be there?
I mean,
they're nearby.
People are
He's
there.
right? It's near NYU. It's on Bleecker Street.
Yeah.
It's still New York, Leo. It's still New York.
It's still New York. It's just,
There'll still be
instead
a
of it
person
being
or two in town.
instead of it being 150% of New York, it's like 95%.
There'll be a few cabbies, a barber or two. There'll be some people there.
There'll be the line of tourists in front of John's.
Oh, yeah, of course,
Yeah.
the tourists. Yeah.
Lots of tourists.
This is going to be hard
that's
for me
tourists.
not to go next door and get some pizza from John.
Well, then we also have to go to Burger America.
I do
We
want to
do.
do
We
that.
can do a full day. We can do
It'll
some
be
fasting
just-
in advance.
It is.
So much food.
It is so great.
I will go if you bring the neuro gummies.
I will. Listen, there's a whole.
There's a whole sack of them. I like it how they have like
I'm jumping.
kind of pseudo medical labeling. Like they don't make it bright and colorful. It's kind of a pale blue with white. So it looks kind of medical.
It looks
kind
like
of
weed
like
gummies.
it.
And then at
looks
the
like
bottom
weed
it
gummies.
says, "In the zone every day." Again, I don't recommend or endorse this product.
Are you sure there's not like micro doses of hallucinogens in it or anything?
It says it's specially formulated with natural caffeine, L-theanine, and B vitamins to sustain the mental endurance necessary to maintain your focus. Asterisk. What does the asterisk mean?
What is the asterisk?
What is the asterisk? How
The
is it
FDA has not approved any of
No,
these
yeah,
claims.
it literally is. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not designed to diagnose, cure, treat, or prevent any disease.
Except the disease of I have too much money in my pocket. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little break because this is the new truncated edition of Intelligent Machines. This is the point in the show where I say, I give up. You guys pick some stories. We'll talk about them. Actually, there's a mint of huge number of stories. Wikipedia is going to start using AI. WhatsApp is working on putting private AI chats in the cloud. Meta did its announcements. As Llama Khan was yesterday.
With it, we have a Zuck video in
We have a
glasses.
video from Zuck. I mean, I can go on and on. I do want to rail against the Take It Down Act, which sounds on the surface to be a good thing. It is now sitting on the president's desk. It probably, by the end of this show, will be law. And that is a terrifying thought. Even though it sounded like a good thing and it was passed 98-2 in the Senate, it is not a
What
good
moral
thing.
panic can do. The group chat that Andreessen's in is a good story.
Yes, apparently all these fancy people are all talking amongst themselves. We're not involved.
We're not involved. We're not invited.
They're not letting us in.
Jason's probably there.
Oh, I guarantee you
Not
Jason's
Jason.
there.
Not our Jason.
Calacanis.
Calacanis, yeah.
You know what I think is, because Amy Webb's always saying, well, I'm in these chats. And I always say, well, can I get in these chats? She said, no. I think Amy Webb's in there. That's who I think. She's a futurist. We got to get it in.
We gotta get
get
in.
in.
We've got to get a Jeffrey Gold.
Yeah.
We've got to get a
Invite JG into the chat.
Invite JG, but we can be JG.
Yeah, you got to find out who the messy person is in the chat that they can. That
Who's
they
the
invite you by
messy
mistake.
person and get on their contact list. The whole thrust of the story was, you know what, they used to say this about the Bohemian Grove, Jeff, remember?
Oh, yeah.
You go up
Davos.
into the woods up there and they make all sorts of deals without our involvement and the world, you know, the
Trilateral Commission.
So now they say it's all in signal chats. It's just the same old story. Of course, rich people talk to each other. They don't talk to us. Part of the story was that there's influence going on in these chats, and that they're being directed they're being blue pilled or red
That's also
pilled.
what they're talking about. They have too much money, time, and time.
I always wonder, how does Elon tweet hundreds of times a day?
I know. Well, the gum.
Joe Rogan's
He has the gum.
Yeah.
It all comes back to that, doesn't it? You're watching Intelligent Machines. Jeff Jarvis, Paris Martineau. Great to have you both. Our show today brought to you by Big ID. Love this company. The next generation AI-powered data security, compliance, and privacy solution. How do they do all of that in one thing? Well, I'll explain. AI is transforming businesses, obviously. But that's a risk for you, isn't it? You've got data risk, revealing corporate, secret data, bias. You've also got compliance challenges. So the real challenge is adopting AI responsibly, and that's where Big ID really helps. They deliver end-to-end AI and data governance to help enterprises manage risk, enforce policies, and ensure responsible AI adoption. You know, you want to use AI. There's a lot of value to applying AI to your corporate data, but you've got to do it right. You want to make sure AI only accesses safe to use, relevant data and automatically tags sensitive information by policy and type, leaving it out of the training set if necessary. Big ID is the only leading solution that can uncover dark data through AI classification, identify AI risk, manage data lifecycle. You don't want to use old data either, and scale your AI strategy. And the beauty is it integrates with your existing tech stack. You don't abandon your existing tech stack. It has unmatched data source coverage and allows you to automate privacy and security workflows. Take action on data risks with automated remediation orchestrations. Automate privacy management, including regulatory compliance, data rights requests, and more. Wouldn't it be nice to just offload that, let the AI handle it? Partners include ServiceNow, Palo Alto Networks, Microsoft, of course, Google, of course, AWS, everything you use right now. And with Big ID's advanced AI models, you'll gain visibility and control over all your data. It's the platform Intuit named #1 for data classification and accuracy, speed, and scalability. Now, you might say, well, who uses Big ID? Well, lots of people do, but I'll give you one great example, the United States Army. Big ID helped the U.S. Army illuminate dark data and automate data retention. I mean, it's a big problem. Imagine the Army has data stores everywhere, on-prem, in the cloud, in all different formats. Here's the testimonial. This comes from U.S. Army Training and Doctrine Command. They said, quote, "The first wow moment with Big ID came with being able to have that single interface that inventories a variety of data holdings, including structured and unstructured data across emails, zip files, SharePoint, databases, and more." I mean, imagine the Army has all this stuff, right? And they finally could see it all in one place. He says, to see that mass and to be able to correlate across all those is completely novel. I've never seen a capability that brings this together like Big ID does. If Big ID could do it for the Army, they could do it for you. CNBC recognized Big ID as one of the top 25 startups for the enterprise. They were named to the Inc. 5000 and the Deloitte 500 4 years in a row. The publisher of Cyber Defense Magazine says, quote, "Big ID embodies 3 major features judges look for to become winners. 1, understanding tomorrow's threats today, providing a cost-effective solution, and innovating in unexpected ways that can help mitigate cyber risk and get one step ahead of the next breach." Start protecting your sensitive data wherever your data lives at bigid.com/IM. Get a free demo to see how Big ID can help your organization reduce data risk and accelerate the adoption of generative AI. Again, that's bigid.com/IM. By the way, there's a free guide there that will help you understand the risks of Gen AI and data-driven strategies to ensure responsible and compliant AI adoption. It's free. It's waiting for you. bigid.com/IM. We thank him so much for supporting intelligent machines. Good job, Big ID. Good job. I forgot to turn my Apple reactions off.
I think we turned it on last week.
Oh, that's why.
I still don't know how to turn it back.
And he couldn't figure out how to. Anyway. All right. What's your story, Paris?
Oh, what's my story? That's a great question.
Oh, you see, that's the problem. When you get all hopped up on neurogum, your attention span
my attention span is completely shot. I was just reading a story as we were talking about how AI, we don't entirely know how it thinks. However, I'll do a brief, silly one first because I haven't finished reading it. I've got a tunnels section at the bottom because someone in the chat
haven't done tunnels in a while.
We haven't done a tunnel in a while.
So Paris briefly was obsessed with people digging tunnels in their backyards.
Well, I'm not entirely certain that it would be I was obsessed. A lot lot of interesting tunnel news happened to come to me, and who am I?
Coincidence?
To receive it. There was a man making an eel pit in his cistern, a woman building a not up to code tunnel through her backyard, and then a large Hasidic community tunneling beneath Atlantic Ave in Brooklyn that really captivated me. And now there's a story in the New York Times about how bridges and tunnels in Colorado are helping animals commute, which is cute. And
This video looks like it's a regular everyday, bridge, but it's not. It's just a little mud path.
We have those near me in New Jersey.
It's just,
Oh yeah.
It's a bridge for animals. Oh, and there's a pronghorn smiling for the camera if you go down farther.
Oh,
it's really quite cute.
Here's an adolescent black bear making use of a crossing. Mule deer grouped at left and elk at right sometimes use the crossing together. And coyotes, or coyotes as we say, cross daily. All right, I'm still getting the longhorn.
You gotta go down. It's worth it.
There's a deer in the dark.
Listen, deer, it's fine.
I see these all day, every day. I don't know why I'm
not
so
great.
excited
Keep
about
going.
that.
Keep going.
Yeah. Oh,
there we go. That's what we need.
Smiling
Look at that little guy.
Pronghorn.
I don't know what a pronghorn is, but I love it.
Well, they smile.
Anyway,
pretty good.
though this article had tunnels in the headline, it was surprisingly light on tunnel pictures, so I included a second one in case any of those tunnel heads out there really wanted.
We need it.
So
we need some
this
tunnels.
is a glimpse inside of the mountain tunnel that carries water to Southern California. And it's a lot of tunnel pictures.
It's a lot of money for the LA Times, too. But so some guy, I don't know, should you be walking down this tunnel?
Well, there's no water in it. I suppose it's all right. But it's a pretty important. It's a pretty important tunnel.
It's 13 miles through the mountain. Oh, it's shut down for maintenance right now.
Yeah. It's recently, so the Metropolitan Water District recently offered visitors a look inside the tunnel because
this is how they steal tunnel from water from Colorado. I might add.
Well,
This is, by the way, I just want to point out that people in Arizona and Colorado, it's a little dry in Arizona right now. You wonder why? Because the Colorado River is being drained
data
into LA.
centers to process all of your dumb AI searches.
Oh, it's my fault.
It's your fault. You're the one stealing water from Colorado, and you should be ashamed.
There is a little bit of a battle, I think, over the water in the Colorado River, which isn't that close to LA.
I do think it's a really interesting question of, with all of this money and time and resources that we are pouring into developing homegrown American AI, where are we going to get the water from? Because these data centers need a massive amount of water. And
stop it. Oh no, go over here. Go over here. Oh no. Ese on the money. This one.
SBS Audio is supported by advertising.
From breaking news
to all the major developments around the world,
the SBS World News team brings you a weekly podcast on the biggest stories shaping our world.
Whether it's conflict zones, climate updates, or diplomatic breakdowns,
we've got all the news you can use going beyond the headlines
to help you make sense of all the chaos.
Listen to World News Weekly wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to SBS on the Money with Ricardo Gonçalves.
It is Thursday, the 22nd of May, 2025. The Australian share market falling today. The S&P ASX 200 down by 0.5%. Scott Phillips from the Motley Fool will have the details in a few moments. But first to Bitcoin, which hit a record high today to be above 110,000 US dollars. For more, I spoke with Billy Leong, Senior Investment Strategist at Global X ETFs. Billy, so Bitcoin's gone on a bit of a roller coaster this year, falling to below 80 US thousand after Donald Trump's Liberation Day tariffs, but overnight it hit a record back above 110 now. Can you run us through what's behind its recent surge?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a roller coaster ride. And I think definitely in the recent times, I think recently, probably in the last week or 2 weeks, it's definitely more of a re-engagement of political possibility. One thing that people are looking to in terms of the key catalyst is probably tonight or the next few days where Trump will be holding a Trump coin meeting, holders meeting, where he'll be speaking to all these holders of this Trump meme coin. So that's very likely going to be a huge catalyst in terms of how people view his policies or his actions towards cryptocurrencies. Other than that, we've actually seen a lot of flows in terms of cryptocurrency ETFs, and more to your point about Bitcoin. In terms of April, globally, we saw actually re-engagement of positive flows into Bitcoin ETFs, close to about 2.9 billion in the month of April, while we saw actually outflows in the previous 2 months. And, this was probably more resonating in Australia, where we've been consistently seeing ETF inflows into cryptocurrency ETFs. So I think overall, the strength in the past month or so has been a re-engagement of whether there is going to be some political certainty of the adoption of cryptocurrencies.
You mentioned Donald Trump there. Can you tell us a bit more about what kind of pulling power you think the US president has on Bitcoin and I guess other cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, no, definitely a good question. I think definitely more in the overall cryptocurrency space, he has an impact. And I think the key point to note is that he has, in his first term, he has been very focused on deregulation, which has been positive for the likes of cryptocurrencies. And more so for this term, there is a concern, or there is more expectations of executive orders, policies, which may actually further open up the adoption of cryptocurrencies. And I think, the key main thing is because there's becoming a mainstream understanding of cryptocurrencies. But the key is, how can we further this adoption? How can we further this mass adoption? And this is going to be very much hinged on how politics or how regulations come about. And I think, to your point, to your question, this is where the US president or any government leaders really come into play, because, for the institutional adoption, for further mass adoption, for further usage of cryptocurrencies, this is the key.
You mentioned there that Donald Trump isn't necessarily just pushing the Bitcoin price up, but he's got an influence over cryptocurrencies in general, right? So given that we're seeing that Bitcoin price rise to a record high, is the gains that it's seeing being spread across all cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, I would say no. I would say right now it's pretty much been led to Bitcoin, which is very interesting to note because, we see across different versions or different types of cryptocurrencies, there are some which have correlation or have a beta moving along with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is the key leader in that move. And I think the reason is because it's also an understanding of what cryptocurrencies really are. And something that we've looked into is that we've realized that Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency has been, behaving as an asset class of its own. The correlation with different kinds of assets, different kinds of equities, they have been coming down in the past, especially 3 years. And what I'm trying to say here is that there is increasing understanding of this, which means that when we do see a positive, backdrop or tailwind behind cryptocurrencies, it's really a quality matter as well. So I think Bitcoin has been leading the cryptocurrency, price surge, if you can call that. And I think that's because people do understand that there is a higher quality in terms of what Bitcoin possesses, and to an extent what they adoption of it as well.
Is it still fair, though, to say that it's highly risky, especially when we look at the volatility this year alone falling so dramatically and coming back up again? Doesn't that volatility alone serve as a bit of a warning to investors, though?
Look, I would challenge that mainly because if we look at the volatility or the ride of Bitcoin, we also saw that with equities and several asset classes as well. I mean, if we look at the US S&P 500, it probably dipped about 17 to 18% since Liberation Day, and we also saw the resurgence back now, which is probably above that level now. So I would also say that we saw the same move during this period, and to sort of add to the fact that yes, over the past, 3 to 5 years, Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies have been very volatile. But we also have to understand that, the second part of the equation is what are you getting in terms of this volatility, the risk reward we are getting. And if you look from a more of a risk reward or even more sort of technical speaking, a Sharpe ratio, right now we're seeing Bitcoin expressing or behaving a very a positive a Sharpe ratio, which means that there is a very good sort of risk reward looking at these cryptocurrencies, especially in the past few years.
And what about finally for those investors that'll just come back and say, hey, but it is an unregulated asset?
No. Oh, I would think that regulatory is along the way right now. I mean, in terms of what we saw last year, the US SEC approving cryptocurrency ETFs, I think that was a major step into regulating this asset class. We also obviously saw Australia allowing these cryptocurrency ETFs, which have seen very positive inflows, adoption, not just by retail shareholders, but also institutional shareholders. So I would really say that we are, of course, needing more and more regulatory in terms of cryptocurrencies. But in terms of investing in it, we've seen very, very strong regulations around this area, possibly even much better in terms of other or previous when there was no ETFs in existence for cryptocurrencies.
That is Billy Leong there from Global X ETFs. Now, Market Day on the SBS On The Money podcast. To the Australian share market now, which did fall, the S&P ASX 200 off by 0.5% to 8,348. Energy sector, the worst performing today, down by 1.8%, followed by IT. But the banks also saw a bit of profit, taking the Commonwealth Bank off its recent high. For that and more, I spoke with Scott Phillips, the Chief Investment Officer at the Motley Fool. Scott, the market's seeing a bit of a pullback today. Why, and how much of it has to do with the US?
Ricardo, g'day. Why and the US are exactly the right question and answer. It is almost entirely about the US. The US market fell 1.6% overnight. This has been the story of the last few months. I dare say it'll be the story of the next few months as well. We teeter between optimism and pessimism, fear and greed. At the moment, we're in the pessimism camp.
Okay, let's talk about the US then. To what extent are there concerns about the US economy, and how is it being reflected in the performance of US bonds? Because that's what triggered that sell-off in the US, wasn't it?
Right, so you've got the US economy and then you've got the US government, frankly, and they're kind of two different things. So the US economy, still significant fears of inflation and or recession, and the and or is valid because it could be both, right? The dreaded stagflation may turn up if tariffs push prices up and retard US economic output. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in their economy. But of course, if that does happen, that hurts the rest of us. The bond market's a challenge. The US government is having a hard time selling its bonds at the rate, at the price it wants to sell them, effectively at the yield. That comes down to concerns about whether or not the US will be able to pay its debts. Now, that sounds pretty ordinary. They'll pay the debts one way or the other. They can print their own money. But that money printing is exactly why a lot of potential bond buyers don't want to take the cheap price on offer. They're looking for more yield. They're not getting it. And that's concerning investors in both the bond and the equity markets.
Okay, still, if we're talking about the markets pulling back, yes, the ASX 200 is down today, but nowhere near the 1.6% fall we saw on Wall Street overnight. Why do you think that is?
I think it's probably rates, honestly. Both this week's decision and the potential for another cut next time the Reserve Bank meets. We saw it yesterday. The US market wasn't great. We did okay. Again, overnight, the US market was terrible. We're not off by as much. So it seems to be the case that there is, I would say decoupling. It's too early to call it that. I wouldn't call it that. It's not going to happen. But in terms of the extreme or the extent to which we're seeing changes, firstly, the biggest issues are US domestic rather than global. So you'd expect to see the US market fall more than ours. I think there is just some optimism that the rate cut this week, possibly another one next time the RBA meets, maybe another one again sometime later this year, suggests to the market things aren't as bad as they might be. It's also worth saying, by the way, when we think about these falls, we've recovered almost all of the losses that we made on the back of the tariff news. So to some extent, a full recovery is already priced in. When that is not the case, or when the market thinks it's not the case, that's why we're seeing such big and sudden moves.
Okay, speaking of recovery, and I know a lot of market analysts don't necessarily like to talk about cryptocurrencies, but if I can just ask you about Bitcoin, because I think it's up in a couple of months about 50%, right? It's a huge rally. It's back at record territory today. Do we know why?
Mm-hmm. There's two things going on, and they're really hard to pull apart because we're all trying to assess the motivations and the mindsets of owners and potential owners of Bitcoin. You've got two things happening. The first thing you've got is Bitcoin is operating much more like a tech stock than a currency at the moment. And the simple reality is when the market's excited, when things recover, you tend to see Bitcoin recover. That recovery over the past month or so has mirrored, or been more than, but mirrored the direction of the US stock market as a whole and the tech stocks in particular. Overlaid on that, you have got this safe haven sense of investors saying, you know what, if we just talked about the bond market, if we're going to have troubles when it comes to the US selling its bonds, the potential for some sort of default or more likely money printing, quantitative easing, call it what you want, something that doesn't inflate in value, whether that's gold or potentially Bitcoin, is coming to the fore. And Bitcoin has matured as an asset. We know a lot of ETFs are being offered. A lot of people are coming around to believing in it. And so you've got this sense on both camps of, yes, it's a tech stock, it's recovering as stocks recover, but also when the market is worried about what's happening on the bond market with the US currency and inflation, Bitcoin is seemingly, increasingly becoming a safe haven asset.
And finally, I'm just curious to know what you're telling your clients at the moment, given the volatility we're seeing and where you see the opportunities for investors.
Yeah, the advice, we kind of alluded to it earlier, it's going to be a volatile time, right? Don't take too much for granted. Equally, don't get too disturbed when the market moves and when it falls. We know the Oval Office is going to be a volatile place for the next 3.5 years. This is going to be the new normal. So we're going to have to get used to the volatility. Really, really important not to get freaked out when the market's falling. In fact, if you can, take advantage of those opportunities. In terms of opportunities, really I hate the phrase a stock picker's market, Ricardo, because it always kind of is. But the reality is right now, if you think about where we're placed, because the market's up and near an all-time high, you've got to be a little bit careful that you're not buying the overvalued stuff. We're staying away from the banks in particular. CBA is incredibly expensive. So it is a case-by-case market. A little bit of value in retail, some in industrials, some unloved tech, but you've kind of got to go piece by piece. You can't be thematic in this sort of market.
That's Scott Phillips there from the Motley Fool. Don't forget, if you enjoy the podcast, to give it a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and to click subscribe.
This SBS On The Money podcast.
Alright, I'm cutting it low, flow, whoa, yo, mo, coming in low, yo, flow, guapa that bo, happy, Larry, happy as Larry. Okay, goodbye, Intermix Hector, goodbye, Intermix Hector, subscribe YouTube channel. Yoo-hoo, party, amigo.